Black Ops 2's Ladder Zombies maps are largely considered to be some of the best zombies maps in the series. I agree that Mob of the Dead is uncontested as one of the best zombies maps of all time, but for me, Origins has one too many flaws to be deserving of that title. Don't get me wrong, the map has some extremely good points, which I will be covering, but I also aim to highlight the problems I have that hold the map back for me. I'll start off positive because I enjoy talking about what I like more than what I dislike. The map has my favorite intro cutscene in the series. It establishes the new world really well by laying out who and what is new. Shepherd of Fire is a great song to play while introducing you to the new world and the characters. Speaking of, the new alternate versions of the classic crew. They've toned down the more extreme aspects of each of them and made them more serious to fit the new story. This doesn't mean that they're entirely serious. Their comedic aspects have just been dialed back. And I vastly prefer these versions of the characters because, in my opinion, the originals were so extreme it could be more on the annoying side, especially with Nikolai and Richtofen. Moving on to the setting of the map, it's one of the best ones to date. The alternate history World War I battlefield with giant robots walking the map makes for a striking sight, even after seeing it a million times. This is without mentioning the skies, which are lit up by a rift into Agartha and an aerial battle. So yeah, the setting is awesome, and for the most part, the gameplay is too. The starting room of the map introduces you to some of the new stuff. The first generator, some shovels, a challenge chest, there's even a location for the mystery box, and the Wonder Fizz, which is yet another new addition. Origins is one of the few maps in the series where either route out of the starting room is a good choice and offers different pros and cons. The Generator 2 path is more claustrophobic, but it also has more buildable parts like the Ice Staff record. And the Generator 3 path is a bit more open, but has less stuff that'll be useful in the early game, that being Speed Cola and the Fire Tunnel. Either way, you'll have to go both ways for each generator. Both paths converge at a 2-level building which leads you into the main area of the map, the dig site. The building has very little in it that would prove useful. It's got a crafting table, but it's in a pretty dangerous spot. The building won't ever go unused though, because there's still stuff back at Generator 2 and 3 that you could use late into the game, such as the G-Strikes, the perk machines, the tunnel, the Wonder Fizz, and the box. The main dig site is one of the best parts of the map when it comes to things to do per every section. Upon entering, on the left you'll find Generator 4, where you can find Juggernog, the Lightning Staff record, the Wind Tunnel, a crafting table, a soul chest, maybe even a shield piece too. Generator 4 is the most survivable location on the map because it's easily the most spacious region. Even with the mud, it's not too hard to avoid the zombies. To the opposite side of the dig site is Generator 5. Here is where you'll find the Lightning Tunnel, Wind Staff record, another soul chest, and Stamina Up. At the church, you'll find Generator 6, a Fire Staff piece, and a Maxistrone part. In all honesty, the church is my least favorite part of the map. It's still got tons to do, but I've never really liked the layout. It feels a bit awkward to me. Unfortunately for me, who uses the Fire Staff the most, I have to spend a lot of time here. I really love how having to find and activate each generator teaches you the layout of the map, and despite the complaints I'll be having later in the video, I do think that Origins has one of the best layouts in the series. Finally, at the mound, you'll find Pack-a-Punch once all the generators are on, and descending deeper down, you'll pick up the Gramophone, which can grant you access to the depths of the mound and the Crazy Place, providing you have the appropriate records. There's not much to do in the mound until you can make the staves, but you can grab a Maxistrone part. Congratulations, you can now build the Maxistrone, which I never use. I do like that you can use it to get a free MG08 at least, but other than that I've never really used it outside of the quest. The last area left to talk about is the Crazy Place. A significant amount of time will be spent here if you're upgrading the staves, and even more time if you're doing the quest. I honestly don't know whether I love or hate this section. It's the best part of the map visually, no doubt. However, being there is often more of a pain than a pleasure for me because of the shifting layout. It can lead to some unfair deaths. In my last quest run, the walls closed around me and there was nothing I could do. On to the arsenal this map provides you, which is exciting to talk about. For starters, the starter pistol is different. Origins introduces the Mauser C96, which is unique to this map. I really like how this pistol looks, and it's got a great pack-a-punch form in the Boomhilda. The only drawback to it is you can't break the stupid graves in the Iced Staff upgrade quest with it. I found that out the hard way. Speaking of, the staves are definitely a great addition. They started a trend in zombies of having 4 elemental weapons, which you create rather than get from the mystery box. While I personally grew tired of this trend, especially in Black Ops 4 with the Krakens, there is no doubt that this was a good addition to zombies as a whole. Each staff has a unique aspect to it. The fire staff shoots a spread of fireballs, the ice staff freezes zombies, the lightning staff shoots a bolt that pierces enemies, and finally the wind staff is a nerfed thunder gun. At least it looks the coolest. Fire is obtained mostly through map progression, ice is from digging piles while it's snowing, lightning is obtained from riding the tank around, and wind is from the robots. I'll rant about the upgrade quests in a bit, but I think each of the staves is fun to obtain. The other 2 weapons unique to this map, the G-Strikes and Thunder Fists, are really fun to play around with, even if the G-Strikes are just reskinned monkey bombs. The siren going off signaling the robots to fire missiles is just really cool. As for the Thunder Fists, I believe they only one-shot up until around 20 or so, but it's fun to punch a zombie and watch it fly away. What it lacks in utility, it makes up for in flair. This isn't even to mention you could upgrade the fists if you do the quest, which makes them even cooler and more powerful. The fists are rewarded for filling up each soul chest, which is always a highlight of a game for me. And the G-Strikes are awarded for cleansing a stone at the church, and then returning it to where you found it at Generator 2. Get enough melee kills at each location, and you'll get the strikes. Another thing I'd like to bring up is the boss, the Panzer. In my very much not humble opinion, it's the best boss enemy in the series. Threatening, rewarding, it's got flair, it fits the map, and above all, it's terrifying. Arriving on round 8, if you're not equipped for the fight, you will die. You either need a pack-a-punched weapon or one of the staves. I personally love how this emphasizes optimizing your early game, lest you die at his hand. I totally understand why you wouldn't like this. It is kinda cruel to throw one of the series' tankiest enemies at you so early in the game. I can only imagine how hard it would be on new players. But Origins isn't exactly a beginner map, and if you do have a staff, he breaks like paper. To wrap up the good section, I want to mention the Easter egg song, Archangel. I love it. It's cool how it brings all the 3 vocalists from the series past together, and the lyrics are great. My favorites are In Disguise in the Skies Burns a Fire in My Eyes, and Burning Down, Caving In, Die by Fire, and Begin Again. Not to mention the amazing instruments. The guitar is great in the song, especially in the breakdown and intro. The drums too, really good. With all the good out of the way, let's move on to my complaints. You might have been surprised how much I had to praise about this map. I admit my intro was a little negative, but I had to draw you in somehow, you know? Don't worry, I promise to be as negative as I can. Starting off with my biggest issue, the upgrade methods for each staff are terrible. Not the entirety of them, but each staff has a stupid code you have to input at one point. For wind, it's the ceiling dial, which is the least offensive since it's the same every time. For fire, it's the torches beneath the church. For ice, it's the matching symbols. And for lightning, it's the dials all over the map. To me, that one is the worst without a doubt. The reason I hate these so much is it's basically mandatory to look up a guide to see what the hell you're meant to do. It brings the pacing of the game to a halt, and it's just a pain to do that, you know? I mean, I know it's bad when I'm hesitant to do it. I like to do everything. I'm the type who makes all the bows on Der Eisendrock for fun. And unlike the bows, I can't memorize the upgrade process for the staves, even though I've done it multiple more times than the freaking bows. That, by far, is my biggest problem with Origins. But it's not the only one. Moving on to the next point, the Templar rounds. Believe it or not, I used to like these because they add tension, especially when they sync up with the Panzer rounds. However, after playing this map on and off for, the last 6 or 7 years, it's gotten to be something that is pure annoyance more than anything. For one, it happens way too often, being every few rounds after 10. It always seems to happen at the worst time, too, like when I'm doing the upgrade for the fire staff in the crazy place. If I'm not there, they just appear at the other end of the map. It's real fun to have to stop what you're doing and babysit the generators. It's at least nice that it gives you a max ammo, but otherwise it's not really fun to deal with, especially since in cases where they start at General 1, you're probably not making it before they deactivate it. One more small thing before the big one, Samantha will not shut up. I wish she only talked to you if you were doing the quest, but instead the game's like, hey, do the quest, you should do the quest, do the quest. The quest is agonizing, especially in single player. It's not without redeeming factors, but to me it's mostly bad. Let's go step by step, shall we? First, you have to make each staff and upgrade all of them. This is an incredibly time-consuming task. I don't really hate this, it just brings the game to a crawl. It's horrible. You know what's even worse? You don't even need the staves. You craft them, upgrade them, and then you could just let them sit there. Not once will you need to kill a zombie with the upgraded staves. The most egregious example of this comes in the final step of the quest. But I'll get there when I get there. After getting all the staves, you have to put them in the corresponding robots. And this is just bad. I once waited an hour waiting for the dig site robot, and it never came, so I gave up. I imagine this isn't so bad if you have someone to cover each robot, but in solo? God, it's terrible, and it's mainly what prevents me from wanting to do the quest. Luckily, in the BO2 version, you can just place the fire staff repeatedly to skip the step. But in BO3, nothing can save you from it. The next step of the quest is actually pretty cool. It requires you to have the robots target a spot on the ground with the G-strikes. The difference here is that you need to go into the robot and activate the missiles. Once the hole has been opened up, you send in the Maxis drone and have to fight an onslaught of panzers, increasing in number depending on how many players you have. This step is incredibly tense, and I think it's cool as hell. From entering the robot and pressing the big red button, to watching a hole be blasted in the ground, to seeing so many panzers emerge. It's just awesome to me. The next step is to shoot down the glowing plane with a zombie blood and kill the pilot to retrieve the drone. This could easily be one of the worst parts of the quests, but thanks to the free zombie blood you can get by freezing the flaming carts, it's not so bad. One question though. How'd the drone get up there? It went down. The next step is the one where you upgrade the Thunder Fists. You camp at the bottom of the mound and kill Misty Fisty zombies with melee attacks until you get a drop that corresponds to the staff you've got on hand. This is the best part of the quest for me. Not only is it fun, but it also gives you a good reward for it. Unfortunately, you don't get much time with your newfound power, as the next step is the final one. The last step is not too bad. It's a holdout in the crazy place. First, you gotta put the staves in each of their pedestals, then simply get kills. The problem here is that the staves, the key feature of Origins, take a back seat in the map's quest. They're ever present, sure, but many of the steps restrict you from being able to use them, rather than emphasizing them. Like, who decided that in the finale of the quest you shouldn't be allowed to use the best and coolest things on the map? Damn them. Despite this, I do overall enjoy the final step. I have a fond memory of running out of ammo and needing to use my newfound fire punch to kill the rest of the zombies. It worked out perfectly to highlight the cool new weapon I got. It also made the holdout much more challenging, which is always good as long as it's fair, which it isn't always if you're trapped by the shifting walls. Once you get all the kills you need, you send the drone into the rift that has appeared in the center of the room, and then you enter it. Congrats. For all your hard work, you've earned the worst cutscene in the series. I don't care that with the context we have now that it makes sense. It's so anticlimactic, and I hate it so much. I realize many of my complaints come from being primarily a solo player, but I think it's valid to complain. If it were meant to only be done with a full team, it would require one. There you go. That's why I kinda hate Origins. It's overly complicated, has some annoying mechanics, and has an at times annoying quest with a terrible reward. It's to the point where I think it'd be better off if there just wasn't an ending cutscene and ended on the game over screen with the rift in the background. Even with all the criticisms I've just said, I do think Origins is a good map. It's still in my top 10. Personally, I just think its flaws are too big to ignore, which holds it back from greatness for me. Luckily, a map would come in the future that brings all the good stuff from Origins introduced, and in my opinion, perfects it. That map is Dreisendrach. I don't think it could ever replace Origins, because there's so many unique aspects to the map, but in a gameplay sense, it's a pure evolution. I hope you enjoyed the video. It doesn't really fit in with my previous content, but Hey, I'm doing what I want. If you did enjoy it, I do plan on doing more Zombies Maps reviews in the future, so please subscribe, and thanks for watching.